Professor John Nash, very welcome to this interview. It's an honor to have you with us.
Thank you.
It has passed 10 years since you received the Economic Prize. What impact has it had on your professional and maybe on your private life of the last 10 years?
Well, it's almost 10 years. It's had a tremendous impact on my life, more than on the life of most prize winners, because I was in an unusual situation. I was unemployed at the time, and I was in good health, but I reached the age of 66 and beginning to get Social Security, but I didn't have much of that. I had many years of unemployment before me. And so I was in a position to be very much influenced when the recognition of my earlier work came about in this way. I had become widely known, but in a sense it wasn't officially recognized. Mm-hmm. I was quoted very frequently in the literature of economics and mathematics, but it's quite different to get an official recognition like that. Transformed my life.
Did you have any special memories from the time '94 when you went to Stockholm to receive the prize? Anything particular that you would like to share with us? That was
well. I have many memories, but I don't know what I should say. It was very remarkable to be in Stockholm in December. Mm. It's when the days were getting very short, and I was there for St. Lucia's Day, which is where there's a little premature celebration of returning life. It's 10 days early, in fact. Mm. But you could see when the afternoon would begin to getting dark around 3 o'clock. And so that was really a phenomenon that I had not observed before in lower latitudes.
You said in your speech, I believe, or maybe it was later in your biography, that you were hoping by having now being at the age of 66 that you would achieve much more professionally. Do you feel that you have had the opportunity and the time to do that, or have your time been mainly taken up by giving lectures or traveling around, being a celebrity?
There has been much of my time has been taken up in that way, but I have been making progress in the other sense. I haven't completed so much. I have a paper published on ideal money, which I hope to follow up that with another paper extending the ideas. And I really feel I've discovered well, it's hard to describe it, but there has been a deterioration in the quality of money that's observable in many areas, and it brings up questions. Like you could see how money is different all of a sudden in Italy when they had the lira and now they have the euro. So they, in a revolutionary way, have gone from bad money to good money comparatively. But what about the rest of the world?
Even the dollar is some questions around today.
Oh yeah, yes. It's not what it was. The dollar used to be a gold standard currency. I mean, the dollar was really good in the last century. I mean, in the 19th century.
I found this very fascinating what you're talking about. What are the reasons for this, would you say, that the quality of money has sort of changed?
Well, it's complicated. I think we might get into too much deep waters here.
Okay.
And I don't want to compete with Professor Mundell, and in this meeting I'm going to be listening to him and learning things when he lectures.
Okay. Oh. But it's a fascinating subject.
Oh yes, and I have other areas of two other areas of research. I'm about to publish, and my work it really relates to game theory. It's a project, and I have other areas of study. I don't know how long I will live, and how long I'll be able to, how much I will be able to do. But at least I am active.
Well, I was thinking that when you were a child, I have spoken to some of the prize winners over the last couple of years, and many of them were not at all interested in the subject that they finally got very deep into. How was it for you? Were you very interested in maths, for example? Or did you feel that you have a special gift for that?
I did have an appreciation of math and science as a child, and even in elementary school, I would like to do more in mathematics than the other students were doing in one way or another. So I did have that in an early stage, like maybe almost comparable to Mozart in music.
Okay.
Of course, he had a father who was a musician.
Was that recognized early, at an early stage, in your case, your special gift and your talent?
Well, I was recognized. My parents realized that I was mentally special, and of course things developed. Where I lived, the school system wasn't really adapted for special students, and so there wasn't much to do except to go through that and then go on from the town.
Do you think it's better now, where there are maybe special schools for specially talented children, so that one can really give them what they need?
Well, there are many complicated issues come in education. I don't know that I want to express an opinion. You have to have education in different locations. You have the cities and you have the smaller areas that present different problems. The students can reach the level that they need to reach ultimately, and sometimes if they try to go into it too early, though they might, then they don't do so well finally. So I don't know if it matters so much. Of course, the American education system is very inefficient in many ways compared to other countries, Europe or Japan, but it works in such a way that at least the few people who are going on to unusual careers in science and so can manage to get into that, even though they go through an earlier stage that doesn't give them much. That gives them
could almost be seen as a waste of time for some. Yeah.
Oh, it is. It's like a babysitters, or it's sort of like you have kindergarten when it should be the elementary school.
You were very young when you made your discovery that you were given the prize for. What was the breakthrough for you when you were looking into that problem, and how did you, I mean, briefly, how did you realize what you were, achieving at the time?
Well, there were special circumstances with regard to the what's called the Nash Equilibrium, and that's the main cited topic. I happened to be a graduate student in Princeton, and von Neumann and Morgenstern were residents of Princeton, and they had written the book Theory of Games and Economic Behavior, which in turn depended on some earlier work in France, Emile Borel, and then going back even to people like Pierre de Fermat and Pascal, and who studied probabilities. And so I had the opportunity to describe something different from the procedure in von Neumann and Morgenstern, and I wrote it up, but I could use much of their ideas, their concept of strategies and utility, part of which in themselves they had been adopted from previous study by Burrell. And so I could develop this thing that was first called equilibrium points in n-person games, and then non-cooperative games was my final thesis title. And so it was very fortunate that I happened to be in that location. There was a seminar at the university that was concerned with work relating to the work of von Neumann and Morgenstern. So everything went together. And I had also some other work relating to economics, which linked in. This is what's called the bargaining problem. And that is also important, but it wasn't cited for the Nobel Prize because I was linked with also with Harsanyi and Zaltin and the prize, and they were they were linked mostly with the equilibrium concept, and everyone would think. But Harsanyi also had done work in the bargaining, the cooperative games, and Zaltin has done work in the experimental games, and he would talk on that here in this meeting.
Did you realize at the time how big this discovery was? The way you had analyzed it?
I knew I had a good idea, and it was well worth publishing, and it sort of expanded it on the von Neumann and Morgenstern, the zero-sum game, which of course von Neumann himself had done originally. But it's hard to know what will come of something, how the future will be. And of course, as far as Nobel Prize, at that time there was nothing in economics, so one couldn't look forward to that. So that in '68 you started those. So that is entirely a matter of the fortunes of history.
If you were to give advice to young students today, what fields should they look into if they are interested in economics?
In economics? Well, with regard to the specific subfields of economics, I don't know so well. I can observe that game theory is applied very much in economics. It would be, I would say, in general, it would be wise to get into the mathematics as much as seems reasonable, and because the economists who use more mathematics are more respected than those who use less. That's the trend. And I don't think exactly like a professional economist. I think about economics and economic ideas, but somewhat like an outsider. Of course, von Neumann was not an economist, but Morgenstern was, and they teamed together on that book. And otherwise, there are a lot of trends in economics. What seems fashionable now, and the general opinion might be quite different after 20 years or so. If someone is starting a career, they should be prepared for changes. I think they should learn things that are good foundations, but don't necessarily depend on a current fashion or what could be considered general opinion or popular opinion. You should maybe try to learn things that would be good for all time, and of unquestionable scientific value.
Are there any issues in the world today that you are concerned of? For example, if we look at the disparity between the so-called first world and third world, if we look at the political situation and what comes with it, for example, the U.S. budget deficit and its reasons for that. Are there any of those issues that concerns you as a scientist and that you give extra thought?
Well, you mentioned some different things here, like the question of the first world, third world, and what happened to the second world. And the U.S. budget, those are quite different topics. Certainly
they are. There's a broad span.
I think they require different doctors to deal with them.
Is there anything that you are particularly concerned of or?
Well, these are popular themes, but you find something that people are talking about, and you may find that there are differing opinions about them. There's the most widely held opinion, but there may be some other opinion that is more scientific or more subtle. Mm-hmm. Like it is easy to say that there are the rich and the poor, and so something should be done. But in history, there are always the rich and the poor. If the poor were not as poor, you could still call them the poor. I mean, whoever has less can be called the poor. You will always have the 10% that have less and the 10% that have the most. I mean, but they may be comparatively they're not so bad. I was thinking about these things when I saw India for the first time I think it was last year in January 2003. And driving through the countryside of India, I could see areas where presumably the amount of recognized income, personal income, would be very low. But this gave me the thought, comparatively, one sort of peasant or level Indian and another one might not feel so bad. These are not the beggars on the street, but people out in the country. If they have as much as someone else in that area, if they are not so poor compared to their neighbors. And if you look through history, humans have lived under different conditions. They had to live maybe very, very primitively a few thousand years ago. And so much of this living of the modern humans is very, very recent. And man has existed for much longer than has this technology.
I might think from what you're saying, it's really comparative, how much you need. And there is a certain idea maybe in the so-called Western world that we need more than we actually do need. It's a certain greed which is kind of taking resources from so-called third world countries. Is that, do we, does it lead wealth? Does it lead to wishes of further wealth, or which is maybe
Well, the more that in the richer countries, if they wish to consume more, this is likely to provide some business for other parts of the world. They will have maybe some imports. Mm-hmm. I mean, if countries like the USA and Sweden are to import more, then that is business for other parts of the world. and there may be some choice products that. What makes it hard for the other parts of the world if the countries, again, like USA or Sweden, can manufacture all that they need in manufactured goods and furthermore produce all they need agriculturally. So they don't need to import anything and they have things to export.
Yeah.
So then they...
That's partly where we are today, isn't it? I mean, the issues...
Well, there is a political issue about these subsidies for agriculture that European countries, which could import agricultural products, will subsidize local agriculture and maybe produce the products there. Like Germany may be growing a lot of wheat, which they would make into bread. And it might be that we wouldn't need to grow any wheat. They could import it from Russia or somewhere, and then that would provide business, provide trade.
May I come to a question that you must choose to answer whether you like or not, because I think, as many people know, at least 2 films and 1 book has been written about your life.
Did you say 2 films?
1 documentary film.
A documentary is not really a movie, a TV show. Yeah.
Okay, and then a book which was the base for the film, I believe. A Beautiful Mind.
There was a book, and then there was the film, Hollywood.
That's right. It was partly concentrating on times which were very difficult in your life, or concentrating on that. And how do you feel about that version of your life that came across to the public? And do you feel that there is a necessity for you to, in any way, comment on that today, or is it something that you left behind?
The movie?
The movie.
The movie is easier to comment on. Well, the movie, of course, the family, at least, we received some money for cooperating and authorizing the movie. The movie is in part an interpretation of how a case of mental illness can go, what could be the nature of a case and how it could evolve. Of course, most typically, what you call mental illness, or what can be called schizophrenia, has an unfavorable course of history, in the sense that the people never really recover to be what you could call mentally well. They become like what are called consumers of mental health organizations. They are always taking some sort of a pill. They likely are not in hospitals. They get out of hospitals, but they live in a form of life that's for people who are not really highly functional. They're not functional. They're not really in the economy of self-supporting people. They're not living a normal life from the economic point of view. And they, in my case, there was certainly a recovery of sanity and more the possibility of doing normal activities. And so it was an interesting case, and and I'm not a mental patient now. I don't take any medicine, but I have a son who unfortunately is a mental patient and is in the process of taking drugs and seeing psychiatrists and this sort of thing. We don't know what the course of that will be. But it was, I was disturbed in this way for a very long period of time, like 25 years, in sort of starting around 30, so it was quite a portion of life's history. And the the movie gives an insight into how this sort of thing can go. The movie actually, at the end of it, it suggests that the person in the movie is still taking some medicine and taking a modern type of a drug after he had tried not to take it and he had struggled with the issue of taking it. So there is a difference there. The director in the movie didn't want to suggest that people who are living in a state with controlled mental illness, that they should stop taking their medicine. It would be dangerous to suggest this.
Okay.
So it doesn't correspond to me, accurately. So where there've been many years since I haven't had medicine since 1970, that's 35 years, or well, more than 30 years.
Is it important for you as...
but even before that, most of the time I didn't really take the medicine, so there are different types of...
Of course.
It's not the same.
But a film which was so widely seen, and I was thinking that, has it been important for you to be able to give your version of your life as well, or is it something that you feel you can, you know, because when somebody goes in and make a film about somebody's life, then, you know, you might need to say, oh, well, that's the film, but the reality is a little bit different.
Well, the film is artistic, and it doesn't describe accurately the nature of the delusional thinking that was my history. And it interprets, like it has someone who sees imaginary persons, sees that as if persons are actually present, or their roommate, and that's not even typical in schizophrenia. So, but that interprets the idea of delusions. More typically, a person may hear voices. They're talking with spirits or something, which are not there. This is the form of more typical delusion. But you can't illustrate that in a movie very well.
Okay.
When the movie shows someone who can be seen, then the person seeing the movie can better understand it. This can occur in mental illness, but it's the less typical form.
It's fascinating to talk to you, and I'm really, really happy that you have spoken to us today. Is there any concerns? I was talking earlier about young students, and somebody said to me that you know, the teachers are those who open up doors, but are the students who have to walk through them themselves. Did you have any teacher through your period at university which was particularly a role model to you, or how has it been for you?
I certainly had some good teachers who were very helpful to me and influential. And for example, in economics, I only took one economics course, and that was, I was in undergraduate study in Pittsburgh at what is now called Carnegie Mellon. But by coincidence, the person who taught the course that I took, it was a course in international economics. And by coincidence, this was someone who came from Austria. So there's actually what's considered Austrian economics is like a different school than typical American or British. So I was, by coincidence, influenced by an Austrian economist, which may have been a very good influence.
Well, thank you so much. I will enjoy very much to be able to listen through when the student discussions are going on as well. Enjoy Lindau very much. Thank you, Professor. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.